Good morning, legends. It's warm out here. It's not so much the temperature. It's about 28 Celsius, which is like almost 80, 81 Fahrenheit. It's just the humidity. It's steamy, it's thick. There's no wind moving when you're standing. I'm going to go ahead and get started here.
The temperature is actually 24, 25 C.
So we're headed out.
It's about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It was 28 at midnight. So it's gotten a little cooler, but it still feels
Once you're moving, like I started
muggy.
to move right now, I feel a little breeze, but it is still thick out here. Start this thing. And now we got a little bit of breeze moving, so it's not too bad. The important thing is wearing the right kind of garments. Don't wear your winter stuff or those heavy. You can probably get away with a mid-weight jersey, but with this lightweight jersey, it feels like I'm wearing nothing. I can feel the air on my skin. That makes a big difference. And even the shorts are lightweight. Not required, but I have a pair, so I figure why not? Because not all the days are gonna be like this. We'll have days where it'll feel a little cooler. But I am not acclimated to riding in the heat right now because it just got in last week. And I had a busy week, I didn't get to go out. So until you get acclimated, you've got to really keep the effort down. But today my goal is to just see how I feel in this heat, because I rode on Thursday and I felt really crappy. So right now it feels good, and it's always great to get out early, because then as the day warms up, you're already out here, you get used to it better than leaving the AC later in the day and just heading out into the heat. So whenever possible, head out early.
On this ride, I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands, picked up Team RR. It was a very muggy morning, small turnout. We went out on Fish Creek Boulevard, steady pace, filmed all the way until we got to Hornier. Then we came on 2854 south, Adui, Keenan Cutter. We stopped at a store there, to 149 to Karen. When we got to Magnolia, I turned on the camera on 1488. Good pace, breezy, 27, 28 miles an hour all the way back into the woodlands. So it was a shorter ride than I normally do, but trying to get used to this heat, we went short and fast. I hope you will enjoy the clips I got for you.
All right, legends. These are the boys. These are the hard men. That's James over there. These are the guys that ride regardless of what's going on. But it's not that bad once you're moving, you know? You got enough of I found my lightest jersey to wear, so it makes a big difference. So we didn't get much of a turnout, but we're gonna make the most out of this ride.
Yeah, we just have a few riders here today. And in a small group, you want to not break up the group. So even if you go fast, keep the pace steady.
So what you guys want to do? Taco?
So heading out Fish Creek,
Okay.
Capitol Highway, mail route.
Okay.
Come back to go down to 2854. Come back to Dewey.
Oh, cool.
Keenan cut off to 149.
This is Dan the man.
149 to 1488.
Okay.
And
That's James on the right.
Keenan cut off to 149.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good stop.
With the wind going on, you can't hear everything Dan is saying, but we're going to take Fish Creek, head out, go mill route. When we get to 2854, we're going to come south instead of going north like we usually do, and come back to Adui and go down Keenan Cutoff to 149. There's a chevron at that corner we stop at. So it's a very good route. It kept us moving. We got out there and got back quickly. Very interesting. I have my glasses behind my head, so I'm putting it on.
Got my glasses on. There's bugs out here. So with a group like this, as small as we are, Gotta ride sensibly. Since I don't know how my body will feel, my legs feel good because they're well rested since Thursday. Just gonna sit in and see how I feel in this weather. Getting out of the AC into this thing, it's always challenging.
I'm wearing my flyweight jersey, which makes a big difference. I'm also wearing a pair of lightweight shorts that I got many seasons ago from Rafa. That makes a big difference also. But you can wear your standard shorts. Just, this is not the time to wear the thick stuff. As I said earlier, you want to go as light as possible.
So as Dan was saying, the route's going up Fish Creek. Usual route, take a different way back home. We're keeping it short, but fast.
I mean, you can see the warm-up. We're warming up at 20 to 21 miles an hour. That's why you have to be consistent. If you want to ride with a fast group, you've got to be consistent. You got to have a plan, because if you fall off your training, it will be just too hard for you to keep up. So you need to make sure you have a plan and you need to stick to it. That's the only way you're going to improve and then have fun while you're doing it. And because it's hot, I've got my thermal bottles on. I talked about the Elite Nano Fly bottles. Any thermal that you have. Don't take regular bottles on very hot rides. Within 15-20 minutes, the water will be tepid. You want something that will keep your water cool for at least a couple of hours. Cool or cold, actually. Because I actually use some of the water to pour on my body. So what I decided to do on this ride, filming, I decided to just film this way out, short of it, and then we're going to jump in a little bit to the open road when we get to the Fish Creek Thoroughfare. We were moving. We had a message from one of the guys in the group, the Team IR guy said, I'm leaving earlier, I'm leaving at dawn. Sorry guys, I'm bailing on you. So he left earlier. I think it was Bob. We ended up catching them at the store anyway. So they left like an hour before we did, and we still caught them. So we were moving. We didn't play. But you know, they probably were social riding. We weren't going extremely fast, crazy fast, but it was fast. It was fast and steady. It's a different kind of effort. But when you have a small group, that's the best thing to do, so you don't lose anybody. We have only 5 riders, so we want to keep all 5. And we did a good job of it. We started out together and we all came back together. This is where we get to Fish Creek Thoroughfare, the open road. As soon as guys get out here, it just instinctively the pace just quickens. The roadkill on the left there. Once I'm moving on the bike, my focus is reading the road, meaning not just the pavement, all the other vehicles and pedestrians and dogs and vultures and whatever else. That's all my eyes are just scanning. You don't need to look at any one thing, but you need to be focused on just scanning and be aware and be ready to make decisions. That's the fun thing, and that's why it's not boring riding outdoors. Those of you who train indoors, you don't have a lot of stimuli when you're indoor as much as you have outdoors. There's a lot of stuff going on, and before you know it, the time just flies. You know, you're watching the road, you're watching dogs, you're watching cars, pedestrians, everything else, dealing with the weather. So your brain is stimulated. You know, it's hot. So every 10 minutes or so, I take a drink whether I'm thirsty or not. And even when you're off the bike, you still need to drink because you need to be well hydrated. You don't want to start your ride behind. You always need to be hydrated, but more so when the temperature is this tepid, what I call it, because it's 23 Celsius. It feels warmer than that. 23 Celsius is about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. But it feels like it's 85. The high for the day ended up being 93 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 30, 31 Celsius. But it felt closer to 40, especially in the middle of the day. We were done with the ride by 11 o'clock, if that. I mean, I was home before 11. So they were back 9:30, 10 o'clock. Quick. That's Darren pulling off the front. And no one had to say anything. Instinctively, in a small group, unless you plan on just breaking everything up, you want to take longer pulls where possible, especially at this effort, which is fast and steady, but not full gas. You sit up there as long as you can and give everybody longer breaks so everybody can come and take their pulls. I sit a little to the left, and right now all I'm doing is making sure I have enough fluids. When it's very hot, there's something on the road. Dan is waving me over. I'm already there. I think there might be I don't know if there are a couple of riders or not. Probably some obstruction. But what I was saying was that it is so hot that a lot of times, other than a gel, you don't really feel like eating solid food that frequently. So it's different in hot weather. You need to drink more. Your electrolytes, okay, there were riders. That's what Dan was letting us know. Drink more electrolytes, water, whatever you got. I'm not peddling. I just pass people. It happens all the time. I don't know if it's just my position or what. I'm 86 kilograms, so I'm not the heaviest guy on this ride. But every time we descend, I just always roll. Maybe my wheels are, I always keep my hubs maintained, so maybe that's what it is. But I always find that I descend faster than most people in these rides, and to avoid braking, I roll to the left. So at this point in the ride, what I'm thinking about is, okay, it doesn't feel too bad out here. Let me make sure I get ahead of the drinking. By having the flyweight jersey on, it's wicking moisture really well, so my body is cooling from the wind and the sweat evaporating off of me. I can feel the wind on my skin, and that always makes me feel good. So lightweight jersey, drink a lot of fluids, and keep the effort down. It's not the time to go full gas until you're comfortable riding in these temperatures. I stay a little to the left of Dan. The lane's going to end. That shoulder ends anyway, so we take the right lane here. I think the light will go red. Yeah, right there, Dan, let us know. I know it's a short light, so I stay clipped in, and I'm rolling, I think. Oh, I actually unclipped. He said something, I don't remember what he said, but it was funny. Something to do with the weather. I maintain my position in the line. I stay behind Dan. Unless you're really not able to hold the pace, you want to maintain your position so that you get to take your cuts and keep the group moving. And even if you're not going to pull, maintain your position. When you get to the front, then you just pull off. Once that person's done pulling, people will understand that you're not able to handle the pace, so you're going back. But don't sit in all right and then try to sprint. You're not going to be very popular. If you got energy to sprint, you can pull. I stay to his left to keep my rhythm maintained because there's a lot of hesitation. And I want to make sure that when the wheels overlap, I'm not directly behind him. Because when they back off suddenly, you see how he got close to the camera there? When they back off, I don't have to react too much. I'm a little to his left. So I can just keep my rhythm the same, my cadence. The effort's very reasonable. We're under 200 watts, but between 150 to 200. That's a good, decent amount of effort. Everything felt harder than it normally does because of the temperature. When your body has not acclimated to the weather, when you work hard in the heat, your heart rate rises more than in cooler weather because your body's trying to compensate for the work you're doing and what it needs to do to counteract that. So you will find that your heart rate is maybe 10 plus beats higher than what it normally should be for that same effort. That's all the more reason to cool it on the effort you put out until you have adapted. This road goes up the entire way, so the effort is steady, but you're working. We're over 250 watts, so we're working here. And normally my heart rate would be like 150 or less. It's already past sweet spot. And that's all the more reason why you cannot depend on training to heart rate, because I am not going as hard as my heart rate says I am. My body is having to increase my heart rate to improve circulation because I'm not used to riding in the heat yet. That's one of the shortcomings of heart rate training, the effect of temperature on your body. So you can't say, oh, well, yeah, I'm going in zone 4. Well, no, I'm really going in zone 2, but it feels like zone 4. Or zone 3, it feels like zone 4. Because my body's having to work harder. Okay, once you understand those limitations, training the heart rate is good. It works. Training the power, on the other hand, the power meter does not care what condition your body is in. The power meter just reports what you're putting out. Like right now, it says 300 and some watts. That's all it cares about. And that's why you can't only depend on what the power meter says. Listen to how you feel. If you feel crappy, nobody cares what that power meter says. You need to make the decision to back off. Because the power meter is reporting what you're doing. But if you're doing something that's making you feel lousy, then you need to stop doing it. That's why they say when you're exercising and you start feeling dizzy or disoriented, you need to cease the exercise. That can happen in this kind of weather if you have not been training in it all the time. So you have to monitor yourself very well, very cautiously in the heat. pour water over your head, whatever you got to do to make yourself feel like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling good. Even if it means you have to stop the exercise, then you do. But do not ignore that. Don't say, oh, I'm only doing 150 watts. Why am I dizzy? Well, that doesn't mean anything. What matters is how you feel. So it's important to do not ever ignore how you feel. When you feel good, yeah, you can let it all hang out. If you don't, you got to let people go. Stop the exercise. Skip for that day, whatever. Listen to your body. That's your number one thing to pay attention to. So we're going steady, but it's not a slow pace. Normally, my heart rate would probably be like maybe 158, 160, be right at sweet spot. But I'm up in the middle of zone 4 right now. So, you know, heart rate drift, whatever is going on with the heat. You can see I'm not putting out that much power. I'm below 200 watts. But my body is having to work harder to generate that because of the conditions. That's all the more reason why you must stay hydrated, because if you're dehydrated, your heart rate will go even higher because you need fluids to move your blood around to get nutrients to your muscles. That's in all kinds of weather. You must always focus on your hydration. You know, we're moving around 40 kilometers an hour, almost, so like 24 to 26 miles an hour. We held most of this, and then on the way back, you will see in a little bit, we really let it all hang out. We're hitting 30 miles an hour frequently, holding it. I did not film any clips while I was pulling because it just was easier to put the camera off and just focus on working. But I did some very long pulls to keep the group moving. As you will see here, Dan pulls us all the way over the overpass. He did a nice, steady, long pull. So I noticed my heart rate appeared to be 10 beats higher than it normally is. So in a few weeks, maybe in a week or so, if I get a chance to ride consistently, it will settle down. That's all you need. You got to get out there. So if you go into an event or a Grand Fondo in an area that has a different terrain, even if it's altitude or heat, you have to go and acclimatize yourself. So if you're coming from a cold area and you're going to go do something in a hot area, it's good to get there about, say, a week early, if you can, and then ride in that area, and then you'll be fine. Or find an area that has a similar conditions and get used to that before you head out there. Don't go from very cold weather to very hot weather just quickly. It's harder on your body. So I've been sitting in, say, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius, indoors for the last 2 weeks. And this weather came in a week ago, and I haven't ridden that much in it. So my body is fighting and trying to keep up, and basically increasing my heart rate as I exert myself. That little breeze that you see blowing my jersey, when you stop, there is nothing moving. We're basically punching a hole into the wind here. That's all that's generating that. There's nothing. It's a still day. Yeah, Dan did a good pull here. He's going to pull us all the way over the overpass. I was expecting him to pull off anytime around here, but he didn't. So right after the overpass, I turned the camera off, and then I pulled them into Onie. Then I turned it back on once we got to Raven Chapel. So I didn't have to worry about trying to film people behind me. Since we're just riding steady, there's not a whole lot of attacks. James made an attack off camera when we got to Adui, but Dan and I just looked at him like he's nuts. He didn't go anywhere. We just kept going because we knew in these conditions, we better be ready to sustain that because we didn't back off our pace. He sprinted up the climb, basically. Yeah, this car here couldn't wait. Turn right in front of us in there. It wasn't that close, but those are the kind of decisions that just don't make any sense to me. Would it have taken any more time to just slide in behind 5 riders? When I'm driving my car, I don't do stuff like that. I give myself enough credit. I stay seated and I drop my gearing while Dan is standing. We're not going very hard. Let's see what the watts. 370. Yeah, I guess it's hard. Close to 400 watts. When I train solo, I climb around 5 to 6 watts per kilo. That's my effort. And my heart rate jumped to 170. I'm not going that hard. It's already up to 170. That's how you know it's the conditions driving it. It's humid, reasonable temperature, 23 Celsius, 74, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, but it feels hotter than that. I think somewhere around here I end up turning the camera off, and then I flip back to it when we get to Raven Chapel, because I pulled them all the way on Capitol Hill, all the way there. Yeah, so this is where we are on Raven Chapel Drive. After we pass, there was a 4-way stop sign. Raven Chapel climb is coming up. It's about 200 yards up the road. You can see it. It's a beautiful road. Always quiet like this. So as we roll down here, all I'm thinking about is, okay, we need to keep it steady so we don't lose anybody and have to stop to wait for people. There's only 5 of us. I'm sitting to the left of this guy. He pedals and stops, and every time he stops really suddenly. You'll see that quite a bit in these shots. It brings his wheel, it causes an overlap, so I stay to his left right here. I don't want to change my rhythm on the climb. So we're climbing about a little over 300 watts. That's about probably 2.5 watts per kilo for me. That's pretty reasonable. When I'm going really hard, it's at least 6 watts per kilo. So this is a good maintainable pace to keep the group. You see him like he's doing S's. He's ridden with us before, and I commented about that. Look at, he's got a new bike and he still does the same thing. So it's just the way he rides. As he's going hard, it's like he does an S. That's funny. And if you're not used to that and you're following him, it can distract you. So if that's the case, you're following somebody who does something unusual, just make sure you don't overlap. And you don't have to worry about what they're doing. We're going downhill here. There's a little bump coming up after that climb that we just did. So I stay a little to the left. I think I'm going to go to the right in a little bit. He starts this little weaving. They're going hard, so he's pushing. And I'm going to drift over to his right and get a different shot. I think somewhere around here. Yeah, he goes left, I go right. Just to avoid braking or anything, because I had a lot of momentum. We're going to be turning right on South Pine Boulevard coming up. South Pine Drive. This will take us to Mill Route. So as we get to the corner, I get in the proper gear so I'm not bogged down, because you have to accelerate There's a grade in that corner, and then it turns. I'll ride on his wheel. I figure he let the gap open, he'll close it. When you do a competitive ride or race, that's where you lose a lot of energy. If you don't stay close in the turns and so forth, you have to work harder to get back and close those gaps. It was such a muggy day that I noticed that there are no dogs chasing us. The dogs don't want to come outside. We didn't have to deal with any dogs or anything in the usual spots. So they're like, forget you guys. They're staying in the AC. You know how it is. You have your favorite route, and you know which houses have dogs that they let roam free. Our usual racer dogs were nowhere to be seen on this day. So my heart rate says 151 right now. It should be like 141 because the pace is not that hard. But my body's working harder than it normally does. That's the main caveat with the heat. It usually takes 3 or 4 rides in these conditions for me to adapt. You know, a few rides. It shouldn't take too long. You can get back within a week if you're consistently riding. Just get out there. You don't need to go out in the heat of the day. Just go out when you normally plan to ride. So if you're doing an event where you're going to be out there around noon, you want to get out there around that time, a couple of weeks before that event, and get used to those temperatures, especially if it's in the same area you're in. We turn here on Mill Route Road. This road has a bunch of ups and downs. I like it. Quiet all the time. If you push enough on these little 2-3%ers, you feel it. So Darren's pulling off the front. I stayed to either side of this guy. First of all, to see, and then second of all, you see right there, he just pedal, then he stops suddenly. And whenever you do that, your wheel kind of comes back on the rider behind you. He seemed to be doing it more out here. He seemed to do it more when he's tired. So avoid that. If you can soft pedal, that's good. Instead of just stopping suddenly if you don't need to. It's not an emergency. It throws off the rhythm. Cyclists galore. So people got out. People go in the opposite direction. That was cool to see. But we didn't have our usual number of people out on the roads, as you can tell from the size of this group. But you can't let that deter you. There he goes again with that stopping. I think it's inefficient. Right there again. Everybody else pedaling, he's stopping. I don't think he's very comfortable on that bike. And when we stopped at the store, he started to show us the bike. It's supposedly a Trek Imunda that he had just purchased. And I went inside to get fluids and stuff. You know. At the stop, you can't be distracted. You need to make sure you load up your bottles. So when it's time to go, you're ready. See, everybody's pedaling, he stops. I'm not sure what he's doing. So once I saw that he was doing that, you notice I just stayed to the right or left, or I back off of him. So I can keep my rhythm. I don't have to worry about what he's doing. Because if you follow him very closely, it affects you. If you're not expecting it, it can startle you. So he pedals, he stops while everybody else is still pedaling. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? There's nothing wrong with what he's doing. I just think that it's more efficient to be as smooth as you can. I stay to his left. I don't want to change my rhythm. The road goes up here. It's one of these 3%ers in this place. You can't really tell by looking at it, but you feel it. When I'm climbing, I don't like to start and stop. I pick a rhythm and hold it. It's just better for your body. So what I was saying was nothing wrong with what he's doing. If you're riding behind somebody that's doing that, either you back off, or if there's a gap in front of them, get around them. Let them get behind you. Because it's hard for you to focus if the wheel's constantly being shoved back in your face. You can't relax too much. And if you have to follow that person, then you stay a little off to one side. So when they do that, the overlap will occur on your left or right and not come directly to your wheel if you're straight behind them. That's all. He seemed to do it more when he was tired on the climbs than on the flats. So I'm sure that's a reason. But as a cyclist, you have to be able to adapt to the riding styles of different riders, especially if you're riding different groups. As long as they're safe, you should be able to react to what they're doing because that's part of your handling. You see how he's rocking there? That's what I was talking about. The little S's. He was in another video doing the same thing, but he seemed to be doing more here. And it seemed to happen when the effort got hard. So since I'm aware of it, you can see I'm just to the left. It's not affecting me at all. I stay a little to his left and I'm just riding. I keep my cadence. As you can see, my cadence is still up. So even when he stops, I'm still riding. So we're coming to the FM 2854, and instead of going right like we usually do, we're going to go left because we're going to go south and then cut west to Keenan Cutoff. And all of that's off camera. And when we come back on the camera, we're on 1488 headed eastbound back to the Woodlands, and we're moving. We're on the FM 1488 eastbound, just outside of Magnolia, Texas, heading back towards the Woodlands, Texas. This is later in the ride. It's about almost 9 a.m., 8:57. We've been riding a little over an hour with them. For me, I've been riding a little over 2.5 hours. So for them, the ride was about 2 hours, probably close to 40 miles total. Ended up doing about a little over 100 kilometers on this ride. Since I'm getting used to the heat, it's not the day to start with 6 hours unless I would have started at 5 a.m. or something like that. So if you want to do that, you got to start early so you're not out there in the warmest part of the day. We're riding around 25 miles per hour. And we edged it up towards 30, 32 miles per hour and kept it up for quite a good chunk of this ride. My speedometer is going to flip, but I'll keep you guys posted. I can pretty much tell. So we're moving. I keep my cadence high, just out of habit. We're on a relatively flat road to about maybe 3%. And so with a fast-moving group, with all the speed changes, you want to make sure that you're in a gear that will allow you to accelerate when necessary. I maintained the same position in the group. I pulled for about probably 10 kilometers at a stretch on 149 after the stop. That brought us, 149 that brought us to the intersection with Jackson Road, where it kind of goes from west to south. So I took a very long pull, and that makes a big difference in the group. So everybody got a chance to relax, and I kept it steady. But to where you got some good work because we were riding rollers. So we started with 5, we finished with 5. We didn't have to wait for anybody because we kept the pace sensible. And since this road is relatively flat to, like I said, 3%, we're moving at a fast pace, but the effort is about the same. You can see my heart rate says 157. In cooler temperatures, it's probably 147. So it's consistent in the regard that we're doing the same effort, but because of the conditions, our speeds are higher. We're not dealing with 4 to 5% climbs on this stretch. We don't have a tailwind. You hear the wind. We're punching a hole into the wind. Just a very stale and stagnant day. Now the temperatures have edged up to 29 Celsius. That's almost 80-something degrees Fahrenheit. About 80, 81, probably about 83. So James pulls off the front. Dan told him, nice pulling. We're going about 26 miles an hour. There's a lot of interference on my speedometer. And the reason why Darren pulled up right there real quickly was because he had pulled on 149 after I took my pull. And this guy in the white had kind of missed his turn, I guess, to change his position. So Darren didn't want to pull again. That's why he pulled off right away. And it was because we went through an intersection and he didn't stay in the same spot. It happens. A good shot there. I'm not sure what shots I'm going to get when I'm flipping the camera like that. That's good to know. I'll make a note of that. That's a good shot. Adds a little bit of variety. At this point in the ride, my body's got a little at ease with the temperature. It still feels like we're riding in a sauna. Like I said, 30 Celsius. That's like 90 degrees Fahrenheit. See the ball. Look at that sun in the sky. That's what's heating us up. There's no wind other than what we're generating. But we're working here. And because my body's getting used to it, I notice at the end of the ride, right now I'm at sweet spot. This makes more sense for this effort. Because we're moving. So sweet spot is more reasonable. So it doesn't take too long. You just got to get out there, drink enough water. I drank 2 bottles of water in the first hour. There's a sign, construction sign. That's what Dan is letting us know. One of those that sticks out is big. So on the shoulder, if you don't pay attention, you can reach it. It's on the right. It takes up a good chunk of that lane right there. But what I was saying was I drank 2 bottles of water in the first hour, and when we stopped, I refilled and I drank while we were sitting there. And because I had my thermal bottles on this ride, the water was still cold. The ice stayed there probably for about 90 minutes. I had ice in there, so that was good. So all of that this time in the ride, we're about probably almost 3 hours into it, I started feeling much better in terms of my feel, not so much the pace, because I could handle the pace early on. It just felt like, man, early on. And right here, I started feeling like, oh, okay, it's nice to be out. That's what I mean. It's like you can still do the work, but then you just feel like, man, I'm working so hard for very little effort. And right here, I felt like, okay, now this is feeling more like it. And we're riding around almost 30 miles an hour, probably 26. Let's see what speed settles. It's flipping around because of all the interference I get. We're going slightly downhill here. It says -0. So we're doing about 27, 28 miles an hour, probably 27. But it's more driven by the terrain than so much. The effort is the same. In fact, my effort has dropped to 155 beats per minute. And I'm in zone 1 as far as pop. I'm sitting in the draft real closely. I'm taking the camera and putting it, I'm in the drops. As you can tell from my shadow. I'm actually in the drops. This shot is from the drops. But I got me really low, kept my heart rate down. I stayed on the left of Dan because that was the best spot to get the draft. Now I put the camera back up on the hoods. In a little while, the guy would tap out from the front, and Dan would take over and just ramp it up close to 30 miles an hour. James and Darren back there. So we're right around the top of zone 3 for me. Sweet spot, effort. This is very sustainable. We're able to get fast speeds because of the terrain and the conditions. Road's flat, relatively. So we're moving along. Got home quicker. We're doing about 26 miles an hour right now. And he taps out, and then Dan is going to edge it up close to 30 miles an hour for a little bit of it. And I think in a little while we catch a light as we get our rhythm going. We didn't really want to stop for it, but we had to. So you see about 46K, that's about 27. So we're holding 26, 27 miles per hour. And I'm right at sweet spot, edging into the bottom of zone 4. And then the light turns yellow. You can't tell on the camera, but we can see it. About 50 yards up. I unclip because this light is not very short. Dan does not want to unclip. A little bit green comes up there. I clip in. I practice on clipping and clipping in where it's not a big deal. You can hear me clip in. I turn the camera around so you guys can see these guys getting up to speed. You have to wait after a stop for everybody to get back in. See the speeds pick up, Dan's looking for us, and I just go ahead and get on the speed. I waited a little bit for those guys to get on my wheel, and Dan waited for us. And now we're going ahead and resuming. And this road has a lot of kilometers before you come to any intersection, so you get a good workout here. The shoulder's nice and wide. Even though it's a busy highway, you get a good workout here anytime. And this is a heavily traveled bike route. The triathletes love this road to get on their TT bikes and ramp it up. I just wanted you guys to see how closely I was following him. That's why I took that shot down there. He's going fast, so I'll go ahead and just get in the draft set. There's no point in wasting energy here. And think I'm at 166 beats per minute. This is where the power pod is not in its element. You see it goes to 0 there. It does not do very well when you don't have a lot of wind. So I'm in the perfect drafting position to save energy, and it's not reporting very good power because there's no way I'm doing 0 watts or even 12 watts, and that's the shortcoming, one of the shortcomings. Or if you're sprinting, it takes it a while to get up, you know. So it has its moments. They all got their issues. So in a little bit, you will see the power meter go up to like 300 and something watts because Dan's gonna ramp it up because we're coming to the end of the ride. Right here, look at his body motion. He starts to pour on full gas here. And I just slot in on the sweet spot, I call it, right in the draft. It's gonna get a little quieter right there. He's just towing me along. This is like a final sprint. We're doing about 30 miles an hour. If you look at the kilometers, 50K, that's 31, 32 miles an hour. And he keeps it around there between 29 to 30 miles an hour. And then he will stop pedaling. And I'll ask him if we're turning or going straight. But he's trying to recover. He doesn't even answer me. So in a little bit, he stops the effort. And I basically pull off to the left right here. I asked him if we're turning or going straight. He didn't answer. I just went ahead and turned. I pointed and he said he nodded his head. He was trying to recover. So he basically went hard at the end. But this is part of what we did on Sunday. Keep those doctors fired.